Brit-Am Hebrew Awareness. Yair is a prolific author of articles, books. I have some of his many books. I don't know how he umps them all out. They're all gold mines of historical, anthropological, historical, religious, mythological information. And he is now one of the primary leading researchers in the world on the subject of the lost 10 tribes of Israel. We also welcome our guests who are joining us today, Mr. Yosef Werner from Jerusalem, Mr. Yaakov Havenger from South Africa, Mr. David Gunn from London, England, Nelson from Canada, I think, and John Buzel from, I have to check where John is.
And he's Brazil, now in Brazil, originally from Canada.
Oh, so we have from around the world. We're so happy you're here for the Zoom session. Before we begin, and also when we'll conclude, I have to do my rainmaker bit. Please, I'm asking our viewers and listeners, please support the work of Mr. Yair Davidiy, Brit-Am Hebrew Nations. Is that right, Hebrew Nations? Did I get it wrong again?
No, Hebrew Awareness.
Brit-Am Hebrew Awareness, please.
Awareness.
Awareness. Brit-Am Hebrew Awareness. We'll have the links below, how you can support them financially, subscribe to their YouTube channel, the email list, and many ways you can stay in touch in these thrilling times we are privileged to be alive in, when the lost tribes are awakening worldwide and reconnecting. In my opinion, that will be the backbone of a renewed world. We'll have the temple, we'll have the reunited tribes, the restored monarchy. The backbone, the axle in which the whole thing will turn and keep it stable based on faith in God and observance to his commandments, are the 12 tribes of Israel. Otherwise, it continues to descend into the anarchy we see now. And please support yours truly's work to build our Hebrew Bible-based Fifth Israelite Monarchy Broadcasting Network. See the book of Daniel, chapter 2, verse 44. From Jerusalem, Israel, to honor the God-land Torah and people of Israel and all humanity. Now, without further ado, let me hand over the mic to Yair, and when he is concluded, we'll open for a group discussion with Yair's distinguished guests from around the world.
Yair Davidiy here, speaking to you from the land of Israel. I represent Brit-Am Hebrew Awareness. We search the whereabouts of the lost 10 tribes, and we endeavor to make as many people as possible aware of it. This is a task that we have, and in these times it could be important. We're present talk. This present talk, we would talk about different things from the Bible, different biblical excerpts and prophecies concerning the end times, and also other matters. So, as you know, we research the whereabouts of the lost 10 tribes. We have books. We have books on this subject. These books are quite interesting. Well, the first book was The Tribes. That was the first book. It was also probably our most successful book. It's already been through six editions. Each time we've improved on it, added to it, and so on. It's quite a big book, but it's interesting reading, and it shows how the lost 10 tribes describes the migration of the lost 10 tribes. Those 10 tribes were originally 12 tribes in the land of Israel. They separated into two different sections. The northern tribe, it comprised 10 tribes, and the southern section had 2 tribes, Benjamin and Judah. Afterwards, most of the tribe of Levi also attached themselves to them. And there were 10 tribes in the north. So these 10 tribes were later conquered by the Assyrians. Taken into exile, and in places of exile lost awareness of ancestry. And eventually they migrated. They migrated in different groups and different batches, one could say, different pathways of migration, until eventually they converged in Western Europe. That is where they are. That is where they gave consciousness to their ancestry. And there was a reason for it. The exile was both a punishment. The punishment was a trigger. The punishment determined when it would take place, how it would take place. But the actual taking place was part of a divine plan that had been considered from the beginning. So this work, the Lost Ten Tribes, describes all this. The book of this tribe, the tribes, describes all this, and it goes through where each and every one of the tribes were. And these tribes are identifiable as separate entities, separate tribal entities, at least to some degree, amongst the peoples of Western Europe, from where they also populated North America. And it was a good portion of South Africa, Australia, and New Zealand, and those other alien nations. And it improves where the tribes are. And it's very profusely illustrated, a lot of maps, a lot of illustrations of tribal symbols and so on, and a lot of text. And it's important, it's interesting, and it's worthwhile. So that is the tribes. We have biblical truth, which more or less goes through the prophecies in the book of Genesis, showing how these prophecies concern the lost 10 tribes. And we have Ancestry, which proves that the Celtic people, so-called Celtic peoples, that is the peoples in Ireland, in Scotland, in Wales, also the ethnic substratum of many in England, also in France, elements in France, elements in Belgium and Norway, even in Switzerland, all belong to the Celtic peoples, and the Celtic peoples have their own legends, their own cultures, and their own proofs concerning their Israelite origin. So this work, Ancestry, concentrates on that. We have Ephraim. Ephraim has a similar theme, but Ephraim concentrates more on one could say, on Jewish sources, proving where the lost 10 tribes are, that they are amongst Western peoples, and it also has other aspects, folklore aspects, and references to national symbols and related matters. Just a point of interest. A point of interest is you see this picture of the pretty flower, the nice flower here. That's the Tudor rose, or it's an adaptation of the Tudor rose. The Tudor rose is from the time of Henry VII, Henry Tudor. Before the time of Henry Tudor, there's a civil war. It lasted for quite a while in England between the House of York and the House of Lancaster. And each side had a rose. Each side had a red rose and a white rose. And then they united in the person of Henry Tudor, and he wanted to bring the country, reconcile the two different sides. So this Tudor rose was created, combining the white and the red roses, and became the symbol of his reign, and it is still one of the official symbols of England. I looked it up. It's still there officially, even though it's not used that often. But in movies depicting that era, you often see it. Anyway, it's quite attractive. And this rose is similar to a rose described in the Zohar. The Zohar is a Jewish book, a mystical book of religious significance in Judaism, more or less concentrating on spiritual matters and also legends and traditions. And the very first words of this work, the work first appeared in 1240, but it contains a lot of material. Much of its material is based on the sources going back 500 years before then. And an entrance, it begins by saying that the people of Israel are identified by a rose with 12 petals, and the inner petals are white, the outer petals are red, and it has 5 green leaves around it. So that more or less is a Tudor rose that was being described, which is interesting. And there are points of interest like that in this work. We also have we have four books based on the prophecy of Hosea. The prophet Hosea is one of the minor prophets, but he has quite a large section. He has more than 14 chapters in the Bible. And a good portion of his material concerns the lost ten tribes. And he brings a lot of points that help us prove the identification of lost ten tribes with peoples in the West. And so we wrote a commentary on this, showing this, and we broke it up according to the subject matter into 4 different sections. So that is what we have. We have we have different each volume has a different color, and that is of interest and of importance. It has a lot of material that previously was not known, and that is worth taking into account. We also have Esau describing the peoples who rule the Gentile nations. We identify the sense of Esau with peoples in Europe, peoples in China, Japan. That Esau was the arch enemy of Europe, and this could be important for future generations. And incidentally, it also talks about matters concerning lost ten tribes, concerning the Bible in general, and its value. And we have Germany and Edom, which is similar to Esau, but it concentrates more on the German nation, and it describes a lot of important points, and it's of interest. And we have Hebrew warriors, which describes the Khazar Nations. The Khazar Nations were people also descended from lost ten tribes of Israel that were related to the Picts of Scotland and other peoples in Scandinavia, and they converted to Judaism in the 800s, 900s CE, and eventually they disappeared. They were absorbed by the Ashkenazic Jews. So this describes the whole story about them and proves who they were and what happened to them, and it's of value. There are a lot of new insights, new findings in his work, and also helps prove the identification of the lost ten tribes with Western peoples, because we've proven this book from traditions from different aspects that we have found that the Khazars were descended from the lost tribes of Israel, according to their traditions, according to Jewish traditions, and also that they were related to peoples in Western Europe. So therefore, if they were related to peoples in Western Europe, and if they were from the lost ten tribes, so that is a further evidence, more proof that peoples of Western Europe are also of the same origins. And we have Bible Basics, which talks about matters in general. It's quite good, interesting. We have Hebrew Tribes, which is another version of the tribes, a newer version, which people might prefer, but there's not much difference between the two works. And we also have Origin, which gives summarizes the prophets, all the prophets of the Bible, gives summarizations of all the prophecies concerning the lost ten tribes, and also historical points. Here's a work in French. Someone translated this work, the Origin, into French. So this is a work. I don't know how many he sold, but it's interesting that he did it. And so this is not a bad book. It's not thick. It's a thin book. There's a lot of important information, and it's valuable reading. And apart from that, we also have a book on David and Bathsheba. You know the story of David and Bathsheba. Will according to our understanding, what David did, how it's described in the Bible, is not exactly how it was. If you take it according to a simple meaning, there's some other things behind it, and why it happened, and how it happened, and everything around it, and the period it was happening. This is a work which is of interest. It's a good book, but not many people have been interested in it, which is a pity, in my opinion, because we have valuable information in this work as well. We also have To Rule the World, which describes an aspect of the blessings to Joseph, of Ephraim and Manasseh, and how they played out and how they will fulfill the prophecy. And and it goes into statistics, and it goes into historical facts, and it also goes into biblical prophecy. There's a picture on it depicting a unicorn. The unicorn was the symbol of Manasseh. And we also have this work, Hebrew English, which goes through the English language and shows the origins of different words according to the conventional etymology, as you find it in dictionaries. And it shows the Hebrew equivalent, and it shows that even those many English words are similar to words in Latin and Old German in numerous languages, which is true. They are similar, but they are more similar. They are closer to Hebrew originals, which is a valuable, in my opinion, is a valuable point we have made here, and you can. And hundreds of examples are given in this work. So that is what we have.